That doesn't
It's
mean
like,
It's new.
everything's a marathon.
I know, and I was like, because I was last week, the loops, because we're taking off, I'm like, Jerry, what's the pace? He's like, marathon pace, and then everyone, I'm like, this ain't fucking marathon pace.
I swear,
And then you're like, Travis gotta look good.
9 out of 10 workouts for him, it's marathon pace.
Everything's
Maybe for him, marathon pace.
Yeah,
like-
that was Jerry's easy pace.
Marathon pace can be
My-
7:15 or 8:30, right? Depending on
He
the.
said it
Oh,
too,
yeah.
but I was like, so we should just do an
Or
empty run then.
6:45.
And
I'd
for,
rather
you
just
know,
run 3 miles at empty.
yeah.
Like,
It looks better with these.
Anyway.
Yeah.
I totally forgot to plug in the microphone.
Marathon pace, women's rest.
Alright, hi everybody.
Yeah.
Get started. Just a reminder, I know we brought it up last time, the Marathon Ambassador Program. If you have not put your name on the clipboard and circle, I know a few of you did that last time. Go ahead and do that. Again, that's you're gonna wear a prehab shirt for the marathon, and then you'll get a discounted date analysis, and then that free shirt. And then the other thing is you'll get to use like compression boots pretty periodically, so multiple times. So if anybody is interested in that, go for it. Alright, so today we are talking about sleep. I don't know if that's why nobody showed up, but we'll find out.
Catching a nap.
I know.
Josh will
Like,
be here.
yeah.
In case anybody was worried for his safety, he will be
If I
here.
could sleep more,
I know.
That's right. So we'll talk about the sleeping more, but also just sleeping better.
Yeah.
I know not all of us actually have enough hours in the day. So we'll get into that. So first off, what are some sleep myths? And I'm sure a lot of you have heard all these things. So the 8 hours has been like beaten into us since childhood. It's like you need to sleep 8 hours.
Yeah.
That is partially correct. So there's a window, and I'll talk about that. Time in bed does not equal time to sleep. Sorry, everybody, because we're not asleep that whole time. Waking up in the middle of the night, even though we don't want to do it, you are not asleep that whole time, no matter what. You do wake up occasionally, and if you have to pee, it's not the worst thing in the world. Just do what you can to make the rest of it restful. How long you sleep is not the only thing that matters. That's why the 8 hours thing is not so important. And then everybody knows don't look at your TV or phone to relax, but we all do it anyway. So I will bring up some suggestions of how to make that more okay. Alcohol before sleep is pretty bad for a lot of reasons. I know we're all guilty of it. Every once in a while. You're like, that's the only time we drink. And then you cannot learn to function with less sleep. Something you might be able to do is if you have very good sleep consistency, which I'll talk about later, you may not need huge amounts because your sleep is so optimal. I'll get into that. And then snoring is most definitely not harmless, especially if someone else is snoring and it's keeping you awake. And then exercising at night is also not bad for your sleep. So, lots of myths to dispel, and we'll talk about all of them a little more. So how much should you sleep? 7 to 10 hours for adults. So there's a big range because that depends on a lot of things. If you didn't exercise, you didn't do a whole lot on a given day, and maybe the last few days before that, you may not need 10 or 9 or 8. You may only need 7 or 7. But we're going to talk about contributors to that. So previous sleep, the last few nights, and that can matter really all the way back. So as much as it stinks, as soon as we're born, we are kind of seeing what our sleep need is when we're here and now. Any outstanding sleep debt, so that sleep deprivation, that definitely increases the amount that we need later nights. Any naps, which naps are a good thing. Anybody who says they're not is crazy. There's just a right way and a wrong way to do it. Strain from activities, so exercise, any sort of emotional stress. You had an argument with somebody, tough day at work. Mental stress, so a lot of work cognitively, anything like that. And then sickness is also a big thing. So If you get sick, you just need more, but also if you're run down, whether that's from exercise, work, whatever, that is also going to increase your need. And then lastly, just throw that in your pregnancy, you're going to need more sleep when you're pregnant. That's just a fact. So then all of these are reasons why we need it. Would you say these are good things or bad things? Anybody? Good things? So what's the one that jumps out to anybody? Feel free to raise your hand.
Immune function.
Immune function?
Physical restoration from marathon training.
Yes, exactly. So if we do not sleep, a good answer. If we do not sleep, it doesn't really matter how many miles you walk, because at least some percentage of those miles are kind of going to waste. So there's a pyramid, which I'll show later, and sleep is at the bottom, nutrition, and then exercise and whatever the heck we want to do with life is at the top. If the bottom sucks, the pyramid is going to suck, so we don't want that. So cognitive function all across the board is something that sleep definitely helps with. So this is why things like car crashes and stuff increase when we have less of it. And we obviously don't want any of that stuff to happen. Beauty sleep is real. For any of you who tell your young relatives, like, get your beauty sleep, it's a real thing. Your skin looks better. So sleep 10 hours for yourself. And then these are all the bad things. So there's a lot more bad things than good things, which stinks. So let's highlight the bottom first, not to be a scaremonger, but type 2 diabetes, cancer, heart disease, dementia, psychiatric disorders, all of those increase in your risk if you sleep less. And it's exponential. So if you're getting your good level, so we'll say anywhere from that 7 to 10, with 7 being on the low end, your risk is very little. But as we drop down, say you're at 6 normally, well, you have an elevated risk. Say you're at 5, we have a really elevated risk. So you don't want that. Any questions or anything so far? You look like you have a question. No, just thinking out loud.
Yeah, very much.
Yeah. So another thing it really helps with is skill development. So we were just having a talk on learning cadence and some other running cues. So if you learn something about that, try to make that change, and you practice before every run, but you sleep 6 hours a night, guess what? You're probably not learning very well. That skill and that change. So you're probably just going on autopilot every time that you do anything. We don't like autopilot. So it decreases all these things up here, and then it makes all these things worse down here. And yes, the emojis were necessary. So what actually is happening during your sleep? So we have really 4 different stages. I know this has more numbers than that, but 4 main stages. So like I said, you are awake for some of the time during your sleep. And that's because you sleep on cycles. They average 90 minutes, sometimes 2 hours, and you go through multiple in a night. I'm sure some of you have heard if you wake up really groggy, that could be because you woke up in the middle of a cycle. That's why alarms are bad, but we kind of have to use them. So there's a few things we can do to make that a little better. So light sleep is pretty much just your general, like, I've finally fallen asleep. This isn't necessarily super helpful to us, but it does chop off the sleep debt and sleep need that we have. But then these bottom 2 stages are the most important and where you really want to get a bunch of. So we have our deep sleep, where we have our slowest brain waves, and that is where, like I said before, you get your physical restoration. So nice muscly emoji. So that is usually also the shortest stage that you'll drop into a couple times, like you see on the charts. The NREM, so that's non-REM sleep. That's the other restorative stage, the deep sleep. That doesn't happen as much as all the other stages. So that's why the more sleep cycles you can get, the better off you are. So that's one of the reasons that lengthening out your amount of sleep time is a very good thing. You have more chances to get deep sleep. Then from there, you have your REM sleep. So that's where your dreaming happens. And even if you're not dreaming, it's kind of your cognitive processing. So learning, developing memories, skills, all that sort of stuff, that's when that is happening. And if you see here, that happens actually quite a bit. And those cycles get longer and longer as you kind of get towards the end of your sleep. So that is why some of you probably had your craziest dreams, like right before you're gonna wake up. I know it's a hectic experience, but there's a reason for it. And dreams are supposed to happen. As crazy as they are kind of organizing all of our thoughts and experiences. And so then from there, we go through all those cycles and eventually we wake up. We're programmed to do that without anything. So that's why on your off days, if you don't set an alarm, you still wake up. Your body's not supposed to just keep sleeping. But on the days when you're super tired, notice how all of a sudden you just wake up at noon. Like, oh, okay, well that was some sleep debt that I was getting rid of. So that's typically why that happens. So then we'll get into sleep quality, because I said again at the beginning, 7 to 10 hours sounds really nice. Who has 10 hours of time to sleep? Raise your hand.
On the weekend?
Not consistently. Yeah, nobody. But here's the thing with that. So one method that people use is they sleep whatever amount during the week, and then when they're off, they sleep in till 9, 10 on Saturday, and then Sunday's a wash, because you sleep like half the day. That's really not a good thing. As much as you should wipe out your sleep debt, it's better to kind of chip away at it by just increasing your daily time of sleep by like 15 minutes. Because that consistency is going to be way more important than what I'm talking about next. So the quality piece is what we can really improve, because we can even improve quality if we only have 6 hours of sleep, even 5 hours of sleep. So your main focus is align your circadian rhythm. That's probably a word a lot of you have heard. What are some things that you've all heard helps keep that in line? Anybody?
And wake up at the same time.
Yes, I know what's
Right.
up. Good. So think of it as your 24-hour clock is not actually 24 hours. I know that sounds ridiculous, but science has decided that that's true. And so if we just let it run, eventually we could be almost like jet lagged, 6 hours off. So we need lots of things to constantly bring us back. And those are all of the natural things we've been doing for millions of years. So getting to sleep and waking up at the same time when we see light. That's why our artificial light and living in New York City has really thrown everything into chaos, because the city really never sleeps. And then your eating times, so your meal times, we do want breakfast, lunch, dinner, or whatever number of meals you eat to be relatively at the same time, because your body is expecting food. And if you're expecting food, it can kind of calibrate what time it is. And then exercising at the same time as well, though I know that basically doesn't happen for anyone. So just try to make it, kind of the best 2 out of 3 approach with that. Closer is better than not at all.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Is everybody's rhythm the same? Because I feel like I'm more of like a night person. And I'm just
Right, so I actually did not put that in here, but I'm glad you brought it up. So no, there's 2 main categories, and it really is night owls, and then they call them morning larks. Anybody a morning lark?
Oh, yeah.
Your life is so much more acclimated to the world. Night owl, I'm sorry, I am also that person. So yeah, we've kind of messed ourselves up with that in deciding that you're productive if you are, awake, working, and functioning from 9 to 5 or whatever, and if you don't do that, you're not productive. It's very mean to the night owls. And so really, if you have the flexibility, which I know the work from home thing is sometimes making that better, go to what you feel. So you don't have to work from 9 to 5 if you don't need to actually work from 9 to 5. For example, here I try to lean towards a 10 to 7, just because if I had to get up any earlier, I would probably just not want to do it at all. So do what you can to help with that. And then the other thing is, even though we have those 2 buckets, everyone's actual clock is different. So some person could be like 24 hours and 32 minutes, or 23 hours and 39 minutes. Again, why we're made like that? Who knows? But we are. Great question. All right. Appreciate it. So he had it right in one thing. Those are blue light blocking glasses. So for those of us who are not able to not use your phone or computer late at night, that's kind of a get out of jail free card. As well as a lot of phones and computers now actually have a night mode or orange light mode. So that is helpful. Even though it's still better to not be on those things, that again, it's not as bad. So other ways to improve sleep quality. One thing that a lot of us are probably bad at with our schedule is we get home from work or exercising, we shove our face full of food, and then 30 minutes later, we're on the pillow. That doesn't work very well. Your body is really bad at doing 2 things at once, at least doing 2 things at once well. And so eating more than 2 hours before bed is really helpful. So the more that you can maybe eat dinner and then go do something else, get done with work or whatever, or spend time with people, that's actually what you should be doing. That is going to help you. But again, if 2 hours seems impossible, every little bit counts. So even if it's an hour, hour and a half, it's going to be better than eating and collapsing on a pillow.
How about what types of food?
Types of food. Yeah, so this is a little bit kind of person to person. So for example, me, if I eat carbs and try to go to sleep, horrible sleep. So, and I have just confirmed this very recently because I decided to meal prep similar things 2 weeks in a row, and I had to trade the dinner for the lunch because otherwise the sleep's been garbage. So some people, they need a little quick hit of carbs. That's why everybody wants dessert at night, and they sleep better. Some people actually react better on fat or straight protein and veggies. So it's a little bit of like an N of 1 experiment. But in general, try to make that further away from your sleep time to digest.
Or maybe not eat too much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Eat until you're
Yeah.
satisfied, but not, oh, I can do one more helping. Don't do another helping.
If
Do
you're
your extra helping at lunch. Lunch is really should be our biggest meal. Europe has it right in that respect. Because then they go siesta. So then I said the blue light. Another big one, the big 3 for sleeping. So you need a dark room, and I'm talking like you cannot see any light. You see your watch? No, that needs to be covered up by something. Because anytime your brain or your eyes see the light, it has a little waking effect. Yes, sleep max. It's coming up. And then you want it cool. So that can be a little person specific. Some of us are polar bears and want it all the way down to 61, but 64 to 68 degrees is recommended. If you have a fan, that's helpful too because it can help with some white noise. And then a very quiet room. I know that's hard in New York, so something that is very helpful is earplugs, if you are okay with that. And then a couple things which we're going to get into at later presentations a little more, breathwork and meditation. So the idea behind your whole kind of circadian day is you should be completely relaxed when you wake up, and your kind of energy should spike and spike and spike, and then it should come down and again be very low before you drift off to sleep. Many of us, that's not what happens. We wake up, alarm, we're here, we stay here, stress at work, stress at whatever, we exercise, we don't do this well or that well, sleep, and we try to drop down. The body does not have an off switch like that. So a couple things you can do that do help are certain breathing techniques and meditation, because it at least gives you 5, 10, 15 minutes to lower the temperature of everything and become parasympathetic. That's parasympathetic nervous system, your rest part of the nervous system. So that can be very helpful. And then build a nighttime routine. Your body loves consistency. If you can't get it in exact sleep and wake times, just do the same 3 or 4 things before bed, and your body's going to be like, great, we're sleeping. Even if it's like 2 in the afternoon, it'll decide that those 3 things mean sleep. And then bottom 2, I know we've already brought up the other one, or the last one. Try to avoid caffeine past the afternoon time. So that, again, that varies on what that is for you. For our night owls, that could be like 3, 4 p.m. For our morning larks, honestly, if you're drinking caffeine past noon, probably doing something bad for yourself. So limit that. Keep it before your lunchtime. And then nighttime alcohol consumption, bad.
So you want me to drink during the day now?
So, I'm glad you brought that up. So some of the information from here I got from some of our sleep trackers, just because they are able to study this stuff like 24/7 on all of us. And they're actually like, look, you're gonna drink. We can't stop you. So if night drinking is bad for your sleep, what should you do?
You're doing beer.
Now, moderation, so be smart about that. If you are working during the day, do not day drink. But if you have a nice Saturday or Sunday off, yeah, have a beer or 2, or whatever you do. But then keep it away from your sleep. And I'd be interested to see what the results would be if you did a day where you did that, and then a day where you night drink. How was your sleep? If it's very similar days, it'd probably be a lot better with the day drink. So yes. Thank you for the question.
Does anyone have any tips on what you guys do to improve your sleep, or anyone have any issues with sleeping?
My daily sleep.
So it's a very big subject, and I can talk about that for hours as I treat people with head injuries also. And one of the things that happens is sleep gets disturbed very, very often. And what we do about it, and as athletes, it's a very important aspect of health. And so talking about the autonomic system and controlling your sympathetic and parasympathetic system is a way to make your body relax. And so I think you mentioned a cold room is very important.
Yeah.
For many people, taking a shower before, on the colder side, you can start warm and then lower the temperature to as cold, so that when you get into your bed, you use a warm blanket to improve your core temperature, and that is relaxing. So that could be one of the things that people do. But in terms of the parasympathetic system, if you increase that system, that helps you relax, because especially in New York, the sympathetic system is very active and very dominant. We always worry about this tiger coming, the economy, whatever it is. And so when we get to bed, how are you going to sleep if you're thinking a tiger is coming at you, right? So how can we tame that tiger? And breathing is one of the mechanisms. If the exhale controls parasympathetic activity. If you're worried, if something startles you, you first take a deep breath, and that is to get your heart prepared to start pumping more blood, because chances are you're going to have to run, right? But when you're relaxed, when a task is end, or when you're comfortable, guess what you do? You exhale. Oh, I'm totally okay. So then if we use that to sort of hack our abilities and increase the exhaling part, so if you inhale to count to 4 and exhale to the count of 8, you're going to increase that parasympathetic activity. Guess what? It makes you sleep faster, and it's guaranteed. So those are the tips that I know.
Yeah.
What about ASMR visuals, audios? Sometimes I have issues sleeping, so I have like going to like ASMR, then like I can drift to sleep after like 10-15 minutes. But it's a certain types of ASMRs that I have to just sit still for. I think it's like autonomous sensory reading response.
Something like that. Yes, it's a lot of people, again, especially in New York, and as you get older, it's more common. If you are in complete quiet, your brain is like, I can't do this. Yeah, I know my dad's the same way. He has to have the TV like on, 3, 5 or something like that, and just like not the video part. in order to drift. So yeah, that's where like white noise machines, or we have a lot of apps now that have like 20-minute songs that just
The
like
dude with the monotone voice who just reads.
Yeah.
It's good. It just reads a nonsense story. It's like a
Yeah.
lecture,
Yeah.
and you're just like, all right.
Or like a rain sound effects track.
Yeah.
That one good. None of the rest of it
Yeah.
works.
Yeah.
I found that to be
So,
like,
college lecture.
how can someone fall asleep to that?
Sometimes I'll have a fan on.
Yeah, the fan works too. Yeah. Yeah. Or if you have like a true AC unit,
You can't do a fan.
if you have a fan or can crank that, that's okay too. That'll be down white noise. So these are just a few, again, helpful tools. So we got the earplugs. So if you can't get that quiet and you need it, unlike our friends who need to listen to something, foam earplugs, very cheap. You can use them multiple nights. It's not that gross. It's you every time. And then blackout curtains. So if you are a get up a little later kind of person, you need to sleep until the sun is already pretty high in the sky, get some dark curtains, and that'll help the sun not come in. And then a sound machine. So this is the one that my nephews actually have because it works really well. It's called a hoot hoot. But if you get something like that, you can adjust what is playing out of it. And then eye mask, I know it was mentioned before. That gives you, again, if you don't want to buy blackout curtains, eye mask is $10. Put it on, everything's dark. And lastly, which is probably something we might talk about at a later presentation, but wearables to kind of help you learn about this. So I included kind of the top two right now. So I personally have a Whoop, and that's how I have learned a lot of this about me, because you don't know what you don't know. Like, if you just go, okay, I slept from this time to this time, what do we not know? We know nothing about the quality. And you will only know that if you wear something that tracks it. And a lot of these things now have a journal where it's like, oh, I did meditation. How did I sleep? I didn't do meditation. How did I sleep? I day drank. How did I sleep? I night drank. How did I sleep? And so you can start to kind of be your own little experiment, because all of us are just a little bit different, but different enough that it matters a lot. And that, all of that. Any questions? Megan.
Did you read anything about sleeping with weighted blankets? Because I sleep under a 15-pound weighted blanket every night.
Yeah.
And
so
I'm curious, like, how that changes things.
I didn't right before this, but I have read a little about it, and part of it is the thing Alex was talking about, just like the feeling of comfort. It's
like
almost
a
like you're
little
getting a hug, and something that happens when we get that is like the cuddle hormone, oxytocin. If anyone's heard of that one, it just makes you relax and be like, I am in a safe place. Because if we think the tiger is coming after us, we're not going to sleep. We're going to be like, all right, let's keep watch. But if that blanket's telling us we're home, we're fine, then you're going to drift off to sleep.
We use it with special needs kids, the OT, all the time, so it stimulates the parasympathetic, right? It it's that proprioception, it gives you all the feedback you're looking for, so it can just calm, like if you ever had a kid who rocked, who's going, like you just bear hug until it's like someone bear hugging you all night, basically, without a person there.
Yeah.
Not a cuddler, like,
All right, I think we have to go around now. Maybe we should turn the other way and Megan can take a picture
Yeah.
of us for the evidence, so he knows
Evidence.
we're doing it.
Oh,
Sitting is fine.
Who's up there?
Get over here.
Everyone get in.
I'm taking a video.
Is there a way to get this presentation
Stuff like
like
that, felt it right.
PDF for this or something?
Yeah.
Is this? I really don't. Take notes, obviously. I don't remember this stuff.
Yeah. Do you,
I can never do 6 hours or less.
email?
Yeah, right.
And don't do a circle, do a rectangle. Oh no.
Hey,
What's going on?
So, We finally meet.
As soon as you walk in, I start cracking up.
So I was thinking. Exactly.
We're not the same person.
My tunnel vision, my tunnel
Yes, do we all sound much alike? I don't know.
I'm going, I just saw air and running.
But by the evening, I started to feel like every step. And so all day, when I woke up this morning, it was a little bit more tight.
It should have been like,
I don't know. I didn't do nothing.
so it's like if you could just me with someone, that's one thing. But like,
Listen, my head was, I saw white hair.
Every step, and I
I
think
pull up and I'm like dying for the water fountain, and I'm dizzy, and I'm like, hey, what's up? I'm like,
if I just need
why
to
are
stretch
you
it.
looking at me like you don't know me? And I'm just like, hey, and then like as I'm running back, I'm like,
Do I
I'm
know
not
you? I don't know anymore.
And then the one was like, I would never tag people, and I'm like, but this is so cute, I ran into them, let me tag, and it was just like, what would you do?
And I get an email from Sean being like, hey, Ted, let's say it's like a post. I'm like, oh, that's cool. Did I get a shout out for some reason? Like, did I inspire her? It's like, no. Apparently I heard this today.
It's every step.
Oh, she deleted it.
And I was just like, what?
and then I was thinking, well, the thing I came away with you guys have been doing this thing for a while.
I guess I actually was with you. I was just behind
I didn't
you.
do anything. I remember.
So I was like,
Yeah, I know.
I was like, I work in I take these steps now. I'm quiet. I was like, I'm going to like, I got to take I'm going to try.
It's like that character in the show. Like three crabs. They just pretend that it's a distract actor.
I have to do it. Actually, how do you say
I don't know if I can help you with that one. I'm just wasn't sure if I just had I've been trying to get to it lasts like several years. So I actually need you
have one in each way.
So,
With this weight for like.
It's more than 2 miles back, but it is.
I brought it up to the neurologist because at first they didn't say anything about that. But then I said, oh, you know,
At some point you need one for your
but I didn't bring it
until they come back, right?
So that was funny because
Yeah, like a day one.
that could be the big help I needed.
Hell
Yeah, it's hard to say. I mean, if you're doing the stretches and stuff, that's good. Is it relieving?
Switching it from that one, maybe, I don't know.
It's possible.
I can let my stuff here.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll be back.